Yes, and Article 40, the planning board report is now in our packet. They have unanimously supported a refer to the planning board. I did watch that meeting. Their reasoning was that this actually fit into a lot of the rest of their work plan, and they wanted to do it in conjunction with that work and not in isolation. So I am going to support their request, and I am a no on this. I would support refer back.
So we're going to have two lines on this, I would assume, on our chart, one for the underlying article and one for the amendment or the referral back. So I would support referral back, not the underlying article.
So a no on Article 40, a yes on refer back. I am the same. Anybody else have a position on either the underlying or the refer back? Mr. Pato.
So I'm a yes on the original motion from the citizens article, and on the refer back, I'll wait and see if that's the motion on the floor, because voting against or refer back doesn't do anything.
And I apologize. It's a refer to, not a refer back. Correct. All right.
So Ms. Hay, I have a no on the article and a yes to refer back.
Thank you. And Mr. Sandine.
I'm a yes on the article. I did attend the planning board meeting, and I was impressed by the proponent talking about that he had worked carefully on the language with town council, with the planning department, and the building commissioner, and they were all happy with the proposed language. So I would support town staff and the proponents' work on this.
Just could I clarify, maybe Mr. Malloy could clarify, not tonight, but I'd like to get an understanding what town staff had a public position on that. I did not get to see that part of the meeting, but if that was helpful information to understand.
I'll be happy to get that. The other thing, just for the board's information, is that I've asked our director of assessing and our assistant town manager for finance do an analysis on what the potential impact of this article would be on new growth revenue. Because we have about 75 to 100 new homes a year being built in town. And to go back and take a look at the last year, full year that we have assessed records for new houses, which would be 2021, we don't have a full year for 2022, and take a look at each individual house and what the size of that house was and what it would be under the proposed zoning, and then to come up with a new value based on the per square foot value of that house in a reduced way. And a substantial number of houses would be substantially smaller, and the number may be in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in our new growth revenue. And so I think that's important information for the board to have when you're taking this article under consideration. The tighter finances we've had the last year or two, especially with the school department, being able, because that would become part of the revenue allocation model. And so we don't have that yet, but we'll probably have it in the next couple of days.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Berry, did you have something?
Oh, I just wanted to add, while we're asking about town staff opinions, we neglected to ask for one on Article 28, which was the increased protected tree look-back period. If there's anything from the tree warden or DPW or whoever's gonna enforce that.
Thank you. Excellent point. I will just hang on. Got it. Okay. But I will just say that I also listened to the planning board meeting, and Mr. Sandy and I had a very different takeaway than you did. So, I'm not sure, but I think having both the planning board's report, which is written by staff, and the planning board decision, I think I came away with a very different understanding. But Mr. Pato and then Mr. Sandine.
I was just going to report as the tree committee liaison that it's had been worked on with with staff, and that they were supportive of that 3-year look back, but I'll leave it to staff to provide the detail.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sandin.
So all I was going to suggest is when we're looking at Article 40 GFA, one of the things that I have noticed from looking at the last 3 years of new construction is the average size of a home is 6,700 square feet of the last 3 years. And we need to think about that when we're talking about the character of the town. When I became a board member, the average size of new construction was 4,700 square feet. So we need to think about what's happening to our town, and not just it. We hear all the time from our residents that that they're interested in us finding ways to make housing more, I shouldn't say affordable, but yes, less expensive is probably the right way to say it. And I do think that's something that we need to be thinking about, not just new growth revenue. And I think the square footage doesn't necessarily always correlate with new growth revenue. We are seeing lots of smaller homes that are getting very substantial new growth revenue.
If I could add.
Mr. Malloy, yep.
I don't want to drag the meeting out really long, but one of the other things that came up from the Director of Assessing's review of this is actually the reference to gross floor area versus gross living area. Because gross floor area includes attics, basements, garages, everything in a house, whereas your living area is much less. So it will actually drive the numbers down quite a bit smaller than what is proposed, and that people should be clear that all the unfinished spaces in a house are included in gross floor area, but they're not part of the living area of the house.
Correct, and in fact, Mr. Creech made the point during one of the hearings that, you know, he feels that porches should absolutely be exempted because they add character. And this is part of what the planning board was saying when they wanted to do sort of a more global evaluation and figure out how to change this holistically rather than piecemeal. But all right, I am gonna move us along because I think we are. Oh, I'm sorry. No,
So I did have my hand up, but so I think this is a balancing act. Our revenues are important to us, but so is the mass that we are seeing. When we established the GFA limits, the original proposals were for a smaller target, and they compromised higher. And what we've seen built as a result of that is very large. So I feel very comfortable saying that's not what I want to see built. If you're going to build that large, I'd like it to be a multifamily social value, not a single family house that takes up so much of a lot and changes neighborhoods drastically. There has to be some other value that comes for that kind of density. So I feel very comfortable, and I was one of the signatories for the citizens petition, that this is something that is long overdue. We should have done it right after we saw the consequences of the GFA reestablished.
thank you. Mr. Sente.
Mr. Malloy.
No, Mr. Lloyd, go ahead.
Two things on